let me start by welcoming you all to the latest edition of Talking Dirty with BICSc. My name's Neil. I'll be kind of asking the questions, answering a few of them. With me today is Denise and Kelsey. A bit of housekeeping. You are all muted. Your cameras are all off. If you do have any questions that crop up during the meeting, please drop them into the Q&A. You could also do it into the chat if you want to. But basically, we will carry on and get started. I think everybody is in. I think there's a couple of people more to admit. Just see if we can get them all in. Yep, I think everybody's in now, so we'll make a start. Well, we asked you for any question you wanted to ask. There are a few things that I should probably cover off at the beginning. There are quite a number of questions around business and how to set up your business, how to run your business. So questions like I'm an intending cleaning business owner, what standards are expected to be in place to kickstart? For questions like this, I think the best place that you can go to get that kind of advice and get information from your peers is the CSSA, so the Cleaning Support Services Association. They are great on the business side of things. They're also great on knowing which technology to use. In terms of, there's a question that's come through around what all-in-one software can we use to manage staff, for payroll, for accounting, for auditing. And again, they're the companies that are more, that's the association that's more involved in that. So if you, our advice would be to go to them and they'll be able to give you some quite good advice on it. So I'm going to start off and put this to our panel. And the first question that I'm going to start with is, what do you see as the biggest challenge faced in hiring young cleaning operatives in the industry? I'm going to put this over to the youngest person on the panel, because I think it's fairer that the youngest person on the panel answers this. So Kelsey, if you want to have a go with that one.
Yeah, of course. So I think the hardest challenges that we face really are challenges that we create ourselves. So I think that there are obviously a lot of misconceptions about the cleaning industry and the jobs that we have available, but a lot of the time we don't really do a lot to help that. So I often talk about the industry as one industry with infinite opportunity. And we need to work harder as an industry to talk about all of the different career paths that we actually have available. And the way that we do that sometimes isn't always the best. So a lot of the time it's amazing to see, but we see so many job roles, even entry job roles posted on LinkedIn or posted in industry magazines and things like that. But that's not where young people are. You know, young people that are leaving college or are neat and are looking to find job roles aren't necessarily trawling through cleaning related forums on LinkedIn or reading cleaning magazines. And the other way that we need to think about things is the way that we actually sell ourselves. So obviously we know that outside of the industry, we're not always seen the best, but we need to change that perception from the inside out. So, for example, a lot of the time when we go and talk to young people about bringing them into the industry, we often talk about how we fell into the industry, and how it wasn't really what we wanted to do at the start, but we're glad that we've stayed. And I always say, if we think about that, like going into a restaurant, you know, if someone said, oh, I didn't really want the steak, but I ordered it and it was good, so I had it. That's not exactly going to fulfill anybody with any sort of want or need to order a steak. And it's the same way. We need to talk about the industry with the passion, the reason why we are in the industry. So I think the hardest challenges that we face are misconceptions out there that we don't really work very hard to change all the time. The way that we actually talk about our roles ourselves and not meeting people where they are. We can't expect to throw our net out in a random place where young people aren't there and expect them to come in. We need to meet them where they are. So that means getting in touch with people in the forums that they're at, realizing where school leavers, college leavers, university leavers, people on apprenticeships, people that are NEET or are coming out of other employment, where they're looking for jobs, instead of just using the knowledge that we have of our past experiences. So I think that would be my answer to that one.
Denise, do you want to add anything to that, or are you?
I think what Kelsey said is really valid. And I think also when we're inviting people into the industry, it's far more valid if we've got Kelsey speaking than me. Because if she's explaining to people that she's got where she is in 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, it's far more effective than me saying, well, in the 40 years I've been here. People need validation from people their own age, not the crumblies.
Okay, I'm not going to add anything. I don't think there's anything that needs to be added. I think honesty is always a great policy, and I actually think, you know, I love this industry. I love being part of this industry, and I think promoting that is important. But again, being in the right place, knowing the right language to use, understanding what they mean, even understanding the CVs. They're so different nowadays to what they were in my day. And again, yes, I probably am in the crumbly market, but I don't actually class myself up there, D. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to move on from that. Hopefully that's answered that question for you. I'm going to move on now to a question that's been asked. We've had a number of questions around productivity rates, and one of the questions we've been asked is, how were the cleaning productivity rates originally calculated and subsequently updated? Now, I'm going to give that to the person who updated them most recently, and allow her to go through all of that. Dee, do you want to cover that off?
I will, and this is where being a crumbly has some advantages. So with our rates, it's actually from experience of working in these areas, actually doing the jobs in the areas, and actually knowing what will work and what timings go in. Now, what we have done, and we review this regularly, we're looking at the moment because there's some areas we know are missing from those productivity areas that we're working on to actually get included in the next version of standards and best practice. But how did we get there? We worked it. How did we actually check it? We go and work it. So yes, things do make a difference. There's always going to be differences if you're using a flat mop to a dolly mop, if you're using a scrubber dryer to a mop and bucket. But we take the best average that we can to give you an accurate productivity for the area.
Okay, moving on to, I'm just trying to find the other questions that are in relation to that. How easy is it to calculate how many team members you'll need within an area?
Well, believe it or not, BICSc have a course for that. So one of the things that we did, Neil joined BICSc slightly before me, although I've trained it for a lot of years. I joined them, are you ready for this? 9 years this June, guys. That's how long you've put up with me. And one of the things we wanted to do was make it easy for people to see what sort of staffing level they need. So work rates and work loading, teach you how to read plans, teach you how to apply those productivities to give you how many staff you're going to need for the areas. And because our whole workforce, really, we are very labour intensive. We are people. We're the expensive part of any cleaning contract. Getting your hours and your labour right is the key part to actually getting your contract right. And I would suggest, if you are new to our industry, look at those courses, because there's quite a lot there to learn.
Okay, so if we take that to one of the next questions, it's around productivity, and it's around management considering soft services as a I've lost the question and it's gone out of my head. I do apologise for that. We'll come back to that question in a minute. In terms of that's the one I've just asked. Okay, and I've lost my order completely. What are the core BICSc standards for cleaning quality and hygiene? So this all flows into SOPs and into productivity.
It does. And BICSc standards and best practice actually list what we believe as a standard, as clean. So we state what is clean, we state what is clean or acceptable between cleans, and we also say what is dirty. And a lot of times people will say it's absolutely filthy. Well, my filthy and your filthy can be different things. So what we're doing is trying to take the subjectivity out of that and give clear definitions of what is clean and what words we use to describe clean and what words we use to describe dirty.
Okay, one of the questions that's come in, and it's coming from the London Northwest University Trust. What does good look like when a trust specifies BICSc in a soft FM contract? What clauses, KPIs and evidence packs avoid it becoming a box tick? The first thing I would have to say is they will specify more than just BICSc. So you need a little bit more information, but I'm going to hand back over to Dee for that one.
Right, so specifying BICSc, what bit of BICSc would you like? So we can teach you to clean, we can certificate you to clean, we can teach you to run a cleaning contract, we can teach you to inspect. So a lot of people state BICSc without actually understanding who we are or what we are. So have a look at what they've put in there about BICSc. So have they put BICSc standards? Have they put BICSc training? What have they specified in relation to us? Because that will decide where you need to be within our suite of what we offer. Now, I would suggest they normally say BICSc standards, which is what I've just said. We'll describe what clean is, we'll describe what dirty is. My frustration sometimes with the contract when they state BICSc standards is they don't understand it either. So you need to drive down into what they're actually asking for when they ask for BICSc. And do they actually understand what they're asking for?
Kelsey, do you have anything to add to
that? Yeah, again, the first thing I would do is see whether it's standards, whether they're speaking in relation to the training or the auditing. What's been interesting, especially since sort of 2021, is sort of the aligning of the national standards of healthcare cleanliness within NHS England to BICSc standards, where it does meet, and the only difference really is site-based policy for the trust. In terms of KPIs and stuff like that, obviously you're still going to be massively basing it off the national standards, but good would be, meeting those standards that are in place with trust policy. If you're talking about the auditing levels, again, it's very much heavily part of the technical side of the national standards. But it's the same sort of thing. KPIs and stuff like that should be trust-based, not necessarily BICSc-based. And from an auditing aspect, the same as what Denise mentioned previously, it's a lot more about standardization and actually having a complete, understood value of the audits in terms of those, let's say, failure types for auditing. So yeah, first things first, what part of BICSc are we talking? And then I guess we can go from there.
Okay, there's one question. Michael Kenny has asked, when is the next version of best value standard specs and productivity rates being issued? And he's currently on edition 6. Well, the last edition that was issued for that was edition 7, and that's now been replaced by
Standards and best practice.
Standards and best practice, which is available on the website, and that's the latest edition, Michael. And somebody also asking, have schools' productivity areas been updated? Yes, they were updated and they have been reviewed in the last 3 years. Moving on, this kind of fits into what we've just been talking about. Kelsey, do you want to pick up on this? How do you define clean, as it means different things to different people?
So we'll go back. I mean, Denise has already spoken about it. So we have different, I guess you would talk about cleaning fault types and different levels that you can work against. Obviously, you have your own policies, your own service level agreements, your own assurance quality levels, whatever you want to call it. But what's important when you do spot issues is identifying the type of issue that you're spotting. These are available. We've spoken about it many, many, many times before, and they are massively available in the theory of clean inspections online. But it's basically about identifying sort of the soilage type, the level of soilage, so that we're all speaking about the same level. And within that, for example, if I could clean it quickly, by just a quick damp wipe, if I had to apply a more serious method, or even things like method failure, which is down to perhaps lack of training or just lack of ability to do the job.
Dee, do you want to add anything on that one?
I think the thing that BICSc do is take the subjectivity out of it, and that's what we need to do. So if, as Kelsey just said, if we all speak the same language, we all know we're looking at the same thing. So are we looking at light contamination, heavy contamination, method failure? Learn the language and learn what that applies to, because then it takes out some of that subjectivity.
Okay. I've got quite a few questions around auditing, which we always seem to get a lot of questions about. So one of the first questions I'm going to throw out there, how can we activate the audit app so we can generate reports? The audit app is free to anyone to trial and have a look at how it works. If you want to create reports, you do have to pay for the app, I'm afraid. It's £9.99 a month or £99 for a year, but you can't generate reports until you pay for it. The next one is, what's the best technique and method to complete audits? Who wants to take that one?
Seeing as a person sat in the other room is doing more auditing than I am, I'm going to slope your shoulder to Kelsey.
Okay, we'll go from start to finish. So one of the first things that I would say is whoever is conducting the audit actually needs to understand how to clean and what is actually going on site. There is absolutely no point in putting somebody in an area to audit if they have no understanding of the cleaning that needs to be done and how the cleaning is conducted. They need to be armed and well equipped, ready with site policy, with anything that has been agreed, whether it's between service provider and customer, or whether it is something like, I am going to mention healthcare a lot, it's in my bones, or whether it is sort of a trust-based policy. If there are any sort of standards, like national standards and stuff like that, they need to have a really good understanding of what those are. A good understanding before of targets to hit is great, but I would recommend that whoever is carrying out the audit, or when the audit is carried out, that you can't see the score as you're actually conducting the audit. This way you're allowing another level of complete fairness to the whole system. Obviously, best practice would also be for somebody that sort of sits outside of either the cleaning services department or isn't part of the management of it. The reason why is we can all be slightly guilty about allowing this sort of assurance process that's taking place, this auditing process, to actually become a lot more about validation than about fixing problems. And high scores look absolutely amazing, but they are not believable when you've scored 100% for 4 years running. So somebody that is going to be consistent, understand the process, understand the cleaning, and fair. And that means on both levels, not being too harsh, but following those quality levels that we talked about before and standardizing in the approach. Another thing that needs to be noted is when we're carrying out an audit, we need to ensure that it's not done on Wednesday at the same time, every single week, so everybody knows when someone's showing up, or every month. It needs to be sporadic. and it needs to be as close to the time of clean as possible, because the last thing you want to do on an audit is to be picking up whatever the public has been putting down for 11 hours. There needs to be some sort of rationale as well of what is acceptable between cleans. Has this been caused by somebody else during the time, or are we auditing things that haven't been cleaned yet for a while? So an understanding of the cleaning schedule is of key importance as well when you're conducting an audit. For example, if the internal glass is dirty, but it's not due to be cleaned until tomorrow, and it's been 2 weeks since the last clean of it, are we going to be a little bit fairer that it's got its clean tomorrow? If it was supposed to be cleaned yesterday and it's already heavily contaminated or has a build-up, we need to audit in line with that. When you do audit, and speaking from a lot of experience, you need to use a tool that works, that is efficient, and also allows you to provide evidence of whatever it is you're finding. Because believe me, after many, many, many difficult conversations after an audit, it is a lot easier to go in with pictorial evidence, and the more the better. Time-stamped audits are also a great way of showing exactly what happened and when. And also from a management point of view, you know that someone's not sat in bed at 10 o'clock at night just popping through an audit at whatever time they want. I would also, if you have the availability to, conduct the audit with multiple different people at different times. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to get, the office manager to come and do the audit every time. You could be joined by the cleaning operatives themselves so they can see actually what is being picked up on and what you're looking out for. The customers should be present, and if they can't be, they should be notified as soon as possible of audit scores, just to keep that transparent process. And the other thing that is really, really important is when you are finding rectifications, that you have a set KPI time of when those rectifications are going to be rectified by, so that the audit process doesn't become completely redundant, and that it actually can be signed off, communicated, and basically made sure that you've got the full loop moment of start to finish, that the process actually is worthwhile and not just something that becomes a tick box exercise.
Okay, I think for the majority of the questions, I think that's just covered an answer to about 14 questions all in one. Somebody's asking, how can cleaning managers conduct unbiased inspections that accurately reflect service performance? Is there anything you can add for that one?
I would say understand the specification. Be fair with what you're checking they're doing, because if your specification says clean something once a week, as Kelsey said, you want to check with that scheduling. Your specification might not actually include the item you're failing, and then you're not being fair to the people that are doing the cleaning.
I would add to that and say, again, sort of put yourself into a position where you have to be fair, where you've not got any choice but to be, in terms of invite those external people with you. Change it up, because believe me, if the cleaning standards are poor, or let's say below perfect, bringing a customer with you should ensure that process becomes completely fair. Because believe me, if I was getting a service, I would be there pointing out anything that I could that was maybe not up to par. But at the same time, it may also be that you're going in a little bit too hard on the standards, and somebody else there can help bring it up to where it is an acceptable level.
Okay, I'm going to move away from audits now. I'm going to jump on to the next question. We've got a number of questions. Do we have office in Dubai where everyone can get practical training? We have a partner that works throughout the Middle East called Safest Training Academy. They are based in Dubai. They're also based in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and they do cover the whole of the Middle East and can provide training in person, in country, for you. We also have online options. But if you actually want if you want it face to face, then I would suggest contacting SafeFast. They'll be your quickest and easiest route and most cost effective route to get in BICSc training. They're a training company. They train in lots of areas of FM, and they are our only partner that can train you outside of BICSc itself training you. We also, in a similar way, we had another question that said, I want to know more about cleaning qualifications, how easy it is to get in Dubai, and they've got a busy schedule. Are there online options? There are online options for cleaning operatives and also the supervisory level that you ask for. There is an online supervisor's course that you can access. I'll get my colleague to drop in some contacts for SafeFast in Dubai, for SafeFast in Saudi Arabia, and I'll also get her to drop in the link to the supervisor course for that one. The second part of that question is why do I need permission from my employer to take certification for supervisory levels? From our perspective, you don't. The supervisor course is available to you. You don't need an employer's permission. You can do it yourself. So a bit confused as to why that thought is, but if you've got any questions, contact us directly at info@bicsc.org.uk. Give us a call. We can help. Right, I'm going to move on to some specific cleaning questions now. There's one that somebody asked about how to clean a rubber surface. Who would like to take that one? Dee, I'm passing that one your way.
Everybody's favourite floor, also known as dimple flooring usually. So normally you've got little raised circles on the floor and a rubberized floor, and it should be a neutral product that you use with it. If you have got those raised dimples, you really need a soft brush as well, because if you're using a pad on your machine, you're just going to skim over the top and you're not going to get down into the floor. If it's smooth rubber, you can get away with the pad, but again, you actually get a better finish, in my opinion, with a soft brush, but it should be a soft brush, not a hard brush. So look for your manufacturer's instructions. They'll list products that they prefer, but general advice is a neutral product.
Okay. How to retain good staff for longer?
Treat them fairly. Praise them when they do something well. Train them. People react to being given progression opportunities. If you're giving them training opportunities and they can see a clear path of progression with your company, they'll stay with you longer.
Okay. We've had a question, any online training? I think we've covered that. There is quite a bit of online training out there in terms of what we offer. One of the links in here is Clean Logic Specialist Industry Training. Is it recognised internationally? BICSc training is recognised throughout the world, particularly around the Middle East, around Asia. It's recognised in Australasia. It's recognised throughout Europe, although it isn't taken out as much throughout Europe and obviously UK. It's also known about in Americas. Is there anywhere I've missed? We are internationally recognised and we have members in 22 countries. We have centres in, I think it's 17 different countries. So we have varying recognition. Do either of you want to add to that?
I think you covered everything there.
How to clean carpet stains?
As soon as possible. So if you can get to the stain as it's fresh, it comes out an awful lot easier. And again, try with water, try with a neutral product, and then you may have to try with a specified cleaning agent. But if you can get to it as soon as you can get to it, that's the most effective way of moving a stain. Kelsey.
And after many, many training sessions, patience and contact time, I am the worst person in the world for thinking that things are going to like going to perform miracles within seconds. So, you know, the instructions are on the bottle and follow them. Don't be proud and think that you know better. Follow the contact time, allow yourself time, and if at a loss, do not try and mix 50,000 different stain removal agents on the same surface, and neutralize as much as you possibly can. It's one thing getting a stain out, it's another thing creating your own.
Yeah, so when Kelsey means neutralise, rinse it with water when you're finished. Get the solution out of the carpet, because otherwise you're giving something nice and contactable for dirt and everything else to stick to. So what might have been a small stain turns into a larger one.
Okay. I'm going to give this to you first, Kels, because
Oh no.
does bleach have its uses for the team?
I think Denise is going to start preparing her bat. I think the industry as a whole has worked hard to get rid of bleach from the forefront of people's minds. Bleach can definitely discolor, but we're not in the discolor industry, we're in the cleaning industry. So we need to stop picking products that actually clean. It definitely has disinfectant pros, I would say. But again, a lot of the time, what we do with bleach is we mask the actual problem. So we need to take it off our teams, not only for utmost safety, because a lot of the time we don't dilute it properly. Does anybody actually know the dilution level of bleach that we introduce into site? So yeah, I think take it away, deal with the problem at hand properly.
Yeah, everybody's least favourite product, or certainly mine. The issue you may be facing, if people have bleached for years, bleach damages the porcelains. It breaks down the ceramics. And if they've used it for year after year after year, they've actually caused so much damage, your general products won't then bring that back to white and back to what people perceive as clean. So bleach is a never-ending circle in the fact it causes damage that only it can hide. And it is hiding problems, not solving them.
Okay. I'm going to move on. We've had a few questions around diarrhea and vomiting, and what we can do about it. So in a care home in general. Denise, do you want to start that one?
I will start this one. Please make sure you're using a product that will actually work, whether you're actually looking at bactericidal or you're looking at a virucidal. Look at your product, make sure it's got the relevant capabilities, and then make sure you use it correctly. So the dwell time or the contact time needs to be really clear. Your staff need to be able to give it chance to work. And the cross-contamination, you shouldn't be taking out products from one area to another. Make sure that you're being really clear about DMV. It's a horrible thing, particularly in a care home, and you need to try and get up and stop it. So you do need to make sure that you're not cross-contaminating, you're not using products that have been used one area to another. Sorry, Kelsey, you're waving at me as I say it.
Oh no, yeah, I was just going to add that obviously, especially as we're seeing more in care homes at the moment, there's a lot of multidisciplinary sort of action going on in terms of cleaning, where the lines between responsibilities are quite faded or crossover quite often, especially when we think about bed changes and stuff like that. So it is important. Obviously, I'm going to talk about training first because we are BICSc, that it's not just the cleaning operatives that are trained to understand all of that. If you have care assistants, healthcare assistants that are responsible for bed changes and are going to come into contact with some of these bodily fluids, for lack of a better term, that they are also trained in the right equipment that they need. And if both sets of people are using or are to use the same equipment, that they both fully understand the need of cleaning down the equipment, of making sure that equipment is sterilized, let's say, between use. And that basically anybody that is involved in that is trained up to the best standards. And that it's not moving from room to room to room, which, you know, it does. but it needs to be cleaned between. And it's not okay to think, yeah, we all write a nice sop about it. We agree that that's the way forward, and then it never works because we've got 50,000 bed changes a day to do or different rooms to go into. It needs to be something that is documented and that is followed for the safety of not only the staff, but also the people receiving the care.
Yeah, just make sure all those contact points, everywhere people touch, clean them, give them chance to be disinfected, and choose your product. So is it norovirus? Is it DMV? What are you actually dealing with? Choose the appropriate product and give it the right time and the right method to actually kill the germs.
There are also a number. This I think flows quite nicely into colour coding. There are a number of questions about the right colour for the right area. People wanting to use red for toilet bowls instead of the red and white, and because they think it's clearer. There is no anywhere in the world legal requirement for colour coding. BICSc's recommendations are BICSc's recommendations, and they're out there. So they are blue for general areas, green for kitchen type food areas. They're red for sanitary areas, using red and white, particularly for the sanitary bowls if you want to separate them out. And yellow for a clinical waiting room, clinical areas, that kind of thing. We do know people use different ones. The most important thing about it is that you use the same thing across the board. Just bear with me a moment. There's a speaker playing what I'm saying to you about 2 seconds after I've said it. So just let me. Okay, it's gone. Right. So and then you have your specialist. So you have a white one that you can use for something you wish to use it for. I'm going to hand over to Dee to carry on with the cross-contamination element, but it is self-explanatory. But I'll let Dee give you that information.
I know people over the years hark back to the BICSc colour coding from the early noughties. That changed with input from the industry. That's where we got to the colours we've got to now, and trust me, that was quite a painful process. But the most important thing about colour coding, whatever colour coding you use, make sure all of your people are aware of it. So make sure everybody on your team understands what colour is used for the toilet, what colour is used for the kitchen table. You don't want those two mixed up, never mind any others. So please be really clear. We suggest a colour coding. We've tried to get a national one. We haven't given up yet. We'll keep trying. But if everybody buys into one set of colour coding, it makes it a lot easier for people to move around our industry and moved around in a trained fashion. So if they're using it at one company, they come to yours, they're using the same system. Just be really clear as you train out.
Okay. I'm now going to move on to the next question is difficult retail flooring cleaning. I don't know what difficult retail flooring means. I take it you do, Dee.
Around the fruit and veg aisle, I guess. Some of the major supermarkets have put a really safe tile in their fruit and veg areas to stop slippage. So you can't slip on a grape anymore, guys. The other thing you can't really do is clean this type of flooring. So it's a safety floor. Ideally, you're going to soak it, let the dirt soak to the top, then scrub it and take it off. And if your retailer gives you the time to do that, my congratulations, because generally they don't. So really, you're looking at whatever method you can use on that flooring to get it as clean as you can. Brushes, usually rather than pads. A scrubber dryer. If you've got the time, a rotary machine to actually scrub it back properly, then when you scrub a dryer over it with water in to clean it, neutralise it and dry it. But I feel your pain if it's the type of flooring I'm thinking of.
I'm just going to jump back to bleach a minute. Somebody's asking, what would you use instead of bleach then, especially for grout and silicone, especially getting rid of mould? I can tell you now you're not getting rid of mould if you use bleach, you're just dyeing it white. Dee, do you want to pick up on that? Kelsey, do you want to follow on that?
To be honest, it's a proprietary mould out product. And if you can, look at your ventilation in those areas, because it's poor ventilation that tends to cause the mould. If you can get those areas ventilated, you can stop it building again. But once you've got it, if it's bad enough, to be quite honest, normally it's replace your silicone.
Anything you want to add, Kelsey?
No, yeah, I would agree. I would say using a mold remover is probably your best option. And when you do or have removed to the best of your ability the mold, making sure that the area is dry after you've done so. And again, ensuring that the area is ventilated is absolutely key.
This next question kind of follows on from that. Despite regular cleaning, using good quality chemicals and having proper ventilation, bad odour issues are still occurring in a washroom. Any suggestions or support to control and resolve the bad odour issues?
It tends to be where you've got grouting and you've got urine that's gone into the grouting. So it may well be that an enzyme-based cleaner that you can actually apply that can then tackle those malodours is the way to go. But without actually looking at the site itself and knowing that that's the issue, it is difficult to give you a one-size-fits-all answer there.
Okay. And how would you recommend washroom cleaning during peak hours?
Oh, the joys. I would recommend a trolley, because a trolley becomes the barrier between the operative and the person that wants to use the washroom. Because if you've got those little poles that say cleaning in progress, we used to call them limbo poles, as people limboed underneath them. So either try and lock the area off so that your people can clean it properly, or at least mark a certain area off so there's cubicles they can use while you clean the rest of the area. It's almost in stages. Airports are quite challenging, I think is the term I'm looking for, that I can use in public. Try and rope a certain amount of cubicles off, use your trolley as a barrier, clean those areas, and then switch over so that you're always giving a certain area that's dry as well that the public can use.
Okay, while we're on trolleys, and I'll let you go first, Kels. Somebody's asked about trolleys and why they're always grey and not colour-coded, as in design, and obviously that's down to manufacturer, but is there anything you want to add on that point?
About trolleys, sorry, oh my gosh, trolleys being grey.
Yeah, and not
a lot
colour-coded.
Well, a lot of the trolleys that are brought out now are grey because they use recycled material, is probably the answer that I would give to that. And again, it doesn't really matter what colour the trolley is, as long as the equipment that you're using on it is colour-coded and segregated appropriately. Again, it's amazing if we could talk about having specific cloths and equipment for different colours. It is not good enough for it then. You've got your lovely blue cloth and your lovely red cloth for us to be storing them on top of each other. It completely makes the process redundant. So if we are using a trolley for multiple purposes, which isn't always the best thing to do, making sure that we have space on the trolley to segregate our equipment would be brilliant. What's even better, if you have the ability to do so, and may help with the earlier questions that we had earlier about productivity and job types, is having specific trolleys for areas. So having like a washroom only trolley, a bar use trolley or eating area trolley, and then the general trolleys, which are normally quite often smaller because we're often running around with a vacuum or whatever else to be used for different areas. But in terms of it being grey, as long as the equipment is colour-coded in line with company policy, as much as I would love to say in line with BICSc, in line with company policy, that's what's important.
Very quick question here. Is washing up liquid classified as a neutral cleaner?
If you look on your washing up liquid, you'll actually see that it's now marked as irritant. So that changed in 2015. Prior to that, I would have said, yes, it's a neutral cleaner. And it also does depend on your washing up liquid and how you're diluting it. So what's the measurement for it? What's its actual pH in use? Look at the product you're using, because they're all slightly different.
Okay. Right. There is a question here. The cleaning of vents in clinical areas. Who is responsible? Do we have a definitive on that?
The bane of my life. Okay, if it's in a clinical area, again, it would be in line with, I'm going to say, trust policy. Many times, obviously, because of the health and safety of removing covers and stuff like that, it falls with estates. But it is something that needs to be agreed with at a site-based policy. Most of the sites, I'm not going to say BIC's recommendation for it, but most of the sites we visit, we audit, it is down to the estates department to remove the cover and to clean it whilst they're there, for efficiency reasons and also for health and safety. What you need to be really, really careful of, though, if you are using a vacuum cleaner, is that it has HEPA filtration. And also you need to be aware of the PPE, especially where they may be high up. You're going to have to wear something to protect eyes normally. And also I would question what masks are available to the staff that are cleaning them out.
And can I just add, it's not enough just to have a HEPA filter. You need to make sure you're changing said HEPA filter in line with the manufacturer's recommendations, because I am sad to say I've seen HEPA filters going on a new machine and never be changed. And trust me, that is not the recommendation.
Okay. Just lost the question. That's a really great question. Here we go. What is the manual task that you're most often asked about that would be great to find a really good machine or equipment for? What manual task would you like to replace with a piece of equipment?
I am still waiting for a machine that can clean washrooms.
Kelsey, do you have anything to add? Is the one that you would love to see?
For a manual task, I guess it probably would be washrooms. I mean, there are definitely things that are machines that have come out that are sort of, I would say, still in the stages of development, but definitely something that can clean effectively a toilet, especially. Oh, you've got me started now. We could spend the rest of this with Kelsey's wish list, especially the bottom of the toilet around the silicone, where people tend to overspill. That would be really good. In terms, yeah, in terms of that's my washroom one. In other ones, really, really, really great machines that can actually go straight into the corners and edges and up the skirting. So where we're moving, and this is my wish list for robotics, something that cleans the corners and edges thoroughly and breaks through the 70,000 layers of polish would be absolutely amazing. I expect it for Christmas now. My birthday's in a few weeks, so we'll go for it for them.
Okay. I'm going to move on to obviously what is quite a big topic around AI, innovation, robotics. And we get a lot of questions about where we see things going. There's lots of places it could go. There's the options are infinite. I think we're all seeing the robotics come in and the scrubber dryers and the vacuums that can vacuum and scrub and dry on their own. We're seeing them come in for windows, for cleaning windows at height in particular. I think for me, if I was to say one thing, I think the way the industry can progress the most is to make the most of the robotics where they can. We're struggling with staffing numbers. There's a lot of manual tasks we're expecting our cleaning operatives to do. We can get our cleaning operatives to focus on the more detailed tasks, use the robotics to ensure that the bigger sports halls, corridors are cleaned and cleaned regularly. So therefore protecting the cleaning operative role without taking it away. But I think we also need to look at data, and we need to look at the telemetrics from the machines. How are they used? Are they being used effectively? Could we use them more? We also need to start looking at data and how often rooms are used. You know, data, AI, data analytics, all of this could work very nicely into creating a much more efficient cleaning team. And when I've seen it done really well, the operatives are happier, the contract runs more smoothly, the clients like it a lot more. But to find that information and to find all of that information that you need for the right software, data collection tools, that's something we can't help you with, but I do see that as a way forward. I'm going to hand over to the other two to do this. We're running into the last few minutes of the hour, and I'll let them both pick up on this. Kelsey, do you want to go first, seeing as you're on the screen?
Is it about robotics and how it fits?
Robotics, AI, the future.
Okay, I obviously I think everybody knows I've had my problems with cobotics. However, I have been converted. I think the key thing with cobotics is the implementation process and understanding that where we introduce these things, it is It's not going to fix all of your problems. It is there to make life a bit easier. So, like, just to echo you, Neil, really, it's about training all stakeholders on the capability and more so what the cleaning operative's role is alongside that. A lot of the time, you know, you can introduce the best cobotic in the world, but unless you redefine sort of what that cleaning operative is expected to do with their day to day, you're not going to see the benefits of it. You know, where they were cleaning the floor before, what else can they do? It needs to be heavily communicated because, believe it or not, Kelsey, the cleaning op, will still go back to cleaning the floors. It's also about making sure that it works in terms of if it's not going to reach the corners and edges, pre-planning that. And also having measuring tools, the same way that we may do sort of an efficacy audit on a cleaning operative's understanding or ability, we also need to be checking that these cobotics are actually working and are fit for purpose. You know, if we have a problem on site with a real life cleaning operative's role or the job that they're doing, then we manage that and we deal with it. And it needs to be the same with a cobot. I've seen it work amazingly well, and I've also seen cobots be sort of, you know, let go of, for lack of a better term, or just taken away, popped in the cleaning cupboard, never to be seen again, simply because we're not sure how to implement it. So train, implement, and follow the implement, and keep mobilizing. And the same way that we add equipment to our clean operatives to ensure they continue to be efficient and continue to work, we need to think about the investment that we need to put into the cobotics to ensure that they continue to give us exactly what we need on site.
I think you two have pretty much covered. I would just reiterate, communicate with your staff what you're expecting to get out of the cobot. Communicate what you expect them to do. And don't just do it once. Keep on doing it.
Okay. I want to jump on some bits and pieces housekeeping wise. BICSc can offer you face-to-face training. BICSc can offer you online training. Our website will take you to our online training platform, and within there are a number of courses from license to practice renewal, training courses, all that kind of thing. There's been a lot of questions about certificates. Please remember, we are available through email, by telephone. You can send an inquiry off the website. If you're part of the training community, please, you can send a question that way. We monitor them all, we answer them all. So please ask your questions. If you're missing a card, we can look at getting you a new card issued. There's lots of different options there. We have a whole range of other services that some of you are aware that we do and some of you aren't. We will be having a new page on the website that will talk to you all about all the other services we do around productivity, auditing. There's quite a number of sections there. We have by no means touched 300 questions that came in for this webinar, and it seems to be an ongoing theme that we get about 300 questions, and we try to do different ones each time. Auditing is always a very big subject, so we do tend to talk about that every time. But what I will try to do for the next webinar is I would try to focus on a different topic. What I try to do for most of the ones so far has been pick a spread of them. So if you have any key topics that you'd like us to address next time, drop it in the chat before you leave today, and we can focus the next webinar, Talking Dirty with BICSc, on that subject if a number of you want the same thing. But we would like to thank you for the amount of questions that come in. We'd like to thank you for your continued support of BICSc. And we hope we've given some of the questions that have come in justice and good answers and things that can help with this. The one thing that I will tell you, all of our webinars have been recorded and are available on the website. So within the next couple of days, this will be put up on the website just as you've seen it today, and will be available for you to have a look at and sit and watch while you're having a cup of tea or you're trying to put yourself to sleep. I'm not sure which. Anyway, all I'd like to say, and I think Kelsey and Dee will probably join me in this, is thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for listening to us. And we will be back in 3 months' time with another bunch of questions hopefully answered. We've had one request at the moment, and that's a focus on the national standards of cleaning. The NHS audits would be very useful. But thank you all anyway.
Thanks, everybody.
Kels.
Thank you.